My name is Josh from CyclonesOZ, and today is the day of a wild, severe thunderstorm outbreak on the forecast for New South Wales. Conditions look primed for some very dangerous thunderstorms to develop into the central regions of New South Wales, around the Sydney area, and then through the Hunter and the mid-north coast. I'm going to have a comprehensive update on what the conditions are and what you can expect in your neck of the woods this afternoon and this evening, before shifting focus up into southeast Queensland, where some strong thunderstorms are expected tomorrow afternoon and evening. If you are brand new to the channel, please do consider subscribing and watch this video to the end, especially if you are on the firing line for severe thunderstorms. Tonight will be a doozy. We've already had a couple of thunderstorms, and some of which were actually severe, with some strong winds developing around Gunnedah, Tamworth and Narrabri in towards the northeast of New South Wales. These thunderstorms here developed very early on in the morning, and you can actually see very quickly, as soon as the sun's begun to rise, we've had some large hailstones and some very heavy rainfall begin to develop just towards the north of Gunnedah very early on this morning here. So it means that these thunderstorms mean business. They're going to develop very, very quickly. You can already see thunderstorms also firing up towards the northwest of Narrabri and Weewar, up here into the extreme northern parts of New South Wales. These thunderstorms are getting going very quickly, and they're going to be going quite far into the severity scale, that's for sure. We're already beginning to see some convective blobs into the central parts of New South Wales as well, where the stronger thunderstorms are expected. There is just one small caveat that is now beginning to develop that I'm seeing on the forecast and the radar, not so much the forecast rather, but the radar, is a little bit of low cloud developing around the Dubbo area. Now this cloud here is pushing through. This is a bit of a cool change that's coming through. It's a bit of a frontal system associated with the low pressure system, and that's where the thunderstorms are forecast to fire up along, but it's very quickly pushing into the Dubbo and the Orange area, and if it does get itself over those locations before about 10 or 11 o'clock this morning, so in the next hour or so, it's going to really thwart off thunderstorm chances in central New South Wales. So this could be some good news coming through here. However, the chances of this becoming widespread good news is still quite low at this point in time. Just a brief overview of what I'm expecting today. The strongest thunderstorms and the most expansive severe thunderstorm activity is of course expected through the Hunter and the mid-north coast, but still some strong thunderstorm activity is very likely around the Dubbo and the Orange area. It's just more likely to be a little bit more isolated and a little bit more smaller in nature compared to what we're expecting across the Hunter region and the mid-north coast. But when it is severe, it's going to be very severe indeed. So pushing the forecast forward, you can see very quickly on, after about midday to about 1 o'clock this afternoon, thunderstorms very quickly begin to get going around Dubbo and Orange, and you can see them developing off towards the west of both of those locations. Thunderstorms quickly get going around the Sydney metro area, extending north into the Hunter region and south down the Illawarra coastline through Wollongong and then down to Jervis Bay and Ulladulla. Thunderstorms will also begin to extend through the mid-north coastline as well, north to Taree, Kempsey and up towards Coffs Harbour. The strongest thunderstorms are expected from about 1 or 2 o'clock onwards into the Hunter region and the mid-north coast, and the strongest thunderstorms are expected very quickly after they begin developing around the Dubbo and the Orange area. In particular, I'm watching an area towards the southeast of Dubbo, around Mudgee, just outside of Orange and Bathurst for the strongest thunderstorms. That's where I'm expecting them to be, in the central regions of New South Wales. There will also be some strong and likely severe thunderstorms through the Sydney metro area, particularly between 2 o'clock in the afternoon out to about 4 o'clock in the afternoon, with the greatest chance of strong or severe thunderstorms being across the northern and the western suburbs, as discussed previously. Strong thunderstorms are then expected up towards Gosford, and strong to locally severe thunderstorms then forecast to develop from about 1:30 or 2 o'clock in the afternoon through the Hunter region, and then they'll really get themselves going after about 2:30 in the afternoon through parts of the mid-north coast, especially around Foster, Taree, and then up through Port Macquarie and Kempsey, and then inland from Nambucca Heads and Coffs Harbour. Some very strong thunderstorms are very likely to occur later this afternoon and this evening. Now, the convective forecast models highlight what I'm talking about the best. The convective forecast models have been really calling for some significant thunderstorm activity. Have a look at the concentrated blotches of red here on the forecast models outside of the mid-north coast and through the Hunter region. This is at 5 o'clock this afternoon and this evening, when the thunderstorms are expected to be at their strongest through parts of the mid-north coastline. And you can see it looks comparatively a little bit weaker and a little bit more of a kind of bust out towards Dubbo and Orange. We're not talking about the strongest thunderstorms being out there, and this highlights my point perfectly. We are expecting some strong thunderstorms through the central regions of New South Wales, but they're going to be very isolated in nature. They're going to be quite few and far between, and they're not going to be as expansive or as widespread or just as persistent as what they're going to be through the Hunter region and the mid-north coast. So if you do live out in central New South Wales and you wonder why you completely miss out on the thunderstorms, and it actually looks like none passed within 50 kilometres of you today, which is a possibility for a lot of locations, particularly towards the west of Dubbo and Orange, the severe thunderstorms are very likely to occur, and they definitely will have developed by around 4 or 5 o'clock this evening, but they will be very hit and miss. Some places will cop them bad, but the majority of locations will completely miss out, and that rainfall, the hailstones and the damaging winds will pass over a lot of locations, or pass a long way away from a lot of locations without ever feeling like severe thunderstorms are in the vicinity. So please keep that in mind, that thunderstorms are going to be very few and far between. They're going to be isolated, but when they do hit, they are going to be strong. They will pack a punch, and a few of them are likely to be supercellular in nature, which means they could be very dangerous indeed. Strong thunderstorms are expected to be quite widespread through, as mentioned, the Hunter region, but especially through parts of the southern portion of the mid-north coast between Taree up to Nambucca Heads. We're expecting some very strong thunderstorms in this corner of New South Wales. I'm starting to get quite concerned for a few locations in these areas here. They're built for some strong thunderstorms, and this time of the year we expect stronger thunderstorms to be making their way through this part of New South Wales on a very regular basis. But these thunderstorms here, they're going to pack a punch. I mean, they're going to pack a real big punch. Convective available potential energy values are through the roof. We're looking at values here approaching 3,000. This supports giant hailstones. You're talking 6, 7, 8 centimeters in diameter. These are balls of ice dropping from the sky, not necessarily the hailstones that we're used to, especially in parts of Australia. They do happen here, and they do happen every single year, but they're very, very rare indeed. And these sort of hailstones are now a possibility later today. Not to mention, but the convective soundings are looking extremely healthy for thunderstorms. We have a very defined dry slot in the mid-levels of the atmosphere, and coupling that with a very heavily sheared environment. Again, that dry slot heading up out towards Port Macquarie around the 500 HPA region, and some great wind shear. This is just a setup for organised severe thunderstorm activity. We're talking our supercells, and great heat is also expected to get itself going through parts of the mid-north coast as well. Before these thunderstorms get themselves building up, we're looking at temperatures here around that 30, 31, even 32 degrees Celsius if we push a little bit further south. And again, coupling that with some great humidity values as well, we're looking at values here between 40 to 50% along the coastline. And if we drag this up into the mid-levels of the atmosphere, especially through the lower levels, 60 pushing 70% that dry slot, and then again into the upper levels, we're talking about these values sliding back up to about 80 or 90% as well. So again, a Rolls-Royce type setup for severe thunderstorm or supercellular activity, and this part of the mid-north coast is one that I'm going to be watching very closely tonight. Same with the Hunter region, and even the Sydney area as well, particularly into the northern suburbs. There's going to be some great conditions for some supercellular thunderstorm activity as well, so we're going to have to keep watching those locations very, very closely indeed as well. And not to mention the fact that it's a pretty much a cloud-free day, or it started off as a cloud-free day through parts of the southern portion of the mid-north coast, and especially through the Hunter region. Lots of heating is expected to get itself going, and these clouds are only going to continue to part throughout the day. So locations that are currently a little bit cloudy, and it looks like those thunderstorms could again bust out later today. It looks like those clouds are going to get themselves cleared up very shortly in the next hour or so, and these thunderstorms are again then going to have the conditions primed for development. It's definitely quite concerning indeed. Later on into the evening, we're then expecting kind of a round two, as if one round of thunderstorms wasn't enough today, but a few thunderstorms forecast through the Illawarra coastline, extending up into the Sydney metro area and over the Blue Mountains between about 4 or 5 o'clock in the evening. But especially after about 7 or 8 o'clock tonight, we're expecting these thunderstorms to then begin to blow up once again, and the western suburbs of Sydney could most certainly cop another beating of thunderstorms, heavy rainfall, damaging winds, and potentially some small hailstones as well. Strong thunderstorms are also expected into parts of the mid-north coast, developing once again later into the evening hours after about 6 or 7 o'clock, but especially after about 8 o'clock, and we may see another round of severe thunderstorms again with heavy rainfall and damaging winds, and maybe even some large hailstones as well through parts of the mid-north coast later tonight. Thunderstorms are then forecast to develop over the northwest slopes into the northwest or the upper western region of New South Wales. So we're looking at a location such as Moree, Lightning Ridge, will get Narrabri as well. Some strong thunderstorms forecast to develop up here, and these are going to be very squally in nature with some heavy rainfall forecast to develop in these thunderstorms as well. Lots of lightning, and then crossing the border and towards south central Queensland around Goondiwindi and into Warwick and Toowoomba very late on around midnight and into the very early hours of Saturday morning. This becomes important for our Queensland thunderstorm outlook as well, so let's keep this thunderstorm moving up in towards south central Queensland in mind. This could really jeopardise the thunderstorm outbreak that we're looking at tomorrow for parts of southeast Queensland, which is good news. If it can do that, that's excellent news indeed. But yeah, these thunderstorms later tonight are expected to be very dense with lightning, especially those ones around Sydney, so get the camera out, especially around 9 or 10 o'clock. There could be plenty of lightning around, particularly towards the west of Sydney and through the north central parts of New South Wales around, like I said, Moree, Inverell, Narrabri, Lightning Ridge, and could be lots of lightning in the vicinity up there. But when we do see these thunderstorms, and this leads me on into tomorrow afternoon's forecast for southeast Queensland, when we do see these thunderstorms develop into southeast Queensland, especially very late on into the night, around midnight into the early hours of Saturday morning, we're going to be seeing these thunderstorms leave a lot of remnant cloud once they do collapse in on themselves. Now, this cloud is unlikely to make it over into towards southeast Queensland. That's why the forecast for tomorrow afternoon and evening is so aggressive. And considering the majority of thunderstorms around the Brisbane and the Gold Coast area actually forecast to fire up into the mid to the late parts of the afternoon, it becomes less of a concern, this kind of remnant cloud activity. But keep in mind, if these thunderstorms thunderstorms do move any further towards the east and we see them move through locations such as Wollongara and Warwick, which aren't really expected to see thunderstorm activity at this point in time later tonight into early tomorrow morning, then we're going to be seeing a problem for the thunderstorms developing tomorrow afternoon and evening. They are strong on the forecast, developing quickly after about 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning inland from the northeast coast of New South Wales. So we're talking about Grafton, Yamba, and then around Lismore and Murray-Willumbah. We're going to be seeing some strong thunderstorms begin to develop here, with some strong or even severe thunderstorms very likely to occur north of Ebor, inland from Grafton out to about Glen Innes, Guyra and Deepwater. We'll be seeing some strong thunderstorm activity in this pocket of New South Wales. Thunderstorms will then cross the border around 1 or 2 o'clock Queensland time, really beginning to develop into the south-western suburbs of Brisbane, including Boonah and Beaudesert after about 3 o'clock, and severe thunderstorm activity is very likely to occur with a setup like this. These thunderstorms look to bypass Brisbane though. They head north of Boonah up through Ipswich, Lowood, Gatton, those locations, and then over the Wivenhoe Dam area and even up towards the Glasshouse Mountains. We see thunderstorms properly begin to develop through Saturday afternoon and into early evening. This is at 5 o'clock, but it looks like the worst of it dodges the Brisbane area and only just. They head a little bit further towards the west of Brisbane, sparing the Brisbane city area from what could be a nasty impact from severe thunderstorms. This is good news, especially for Toowoomba, because they're now expecting thunderstorms and some much needed rainfall forecast to go out for those locations as well. We're seeing these thunderstorms extend as far inland as Dalby and then out towards Cecil Plains and Milliman as well. We'll be seeing a few thunderstorms there, and of course Warwick, Stanthorpe and even down towards Wollongara expected to see some thunderstorm activity later tomorrow afternoon and into early tomorrow evening. But I guess fortunately, and you could probably put in brackets unfortunately for a few around Brisbane and the Gold Coast, especially those very excited for storm activity, it looks like these thunderstorms do miss at those major population centres. No rain could get some of the Gold Coast hinterland, definitely expecting to see some strong thunderstorm activity, but Boonah, Beaudesert, Ipswich, Lowood, Gatton, those locations expected to be smashed by what's likely to be a very strong outbreak of severe thunderstorms. I mean, have a look at this. Convective available potential energy values are also expected to be very high, especially through early tomorrow morning and into early tomorrow afternoon. We're talking about values here developing inland from the Gold Coast and around the Brisbane city area between that 1200 up around that 15 or 1600 mark, and even in pockets getting closer towards that 17, 18 or even 1900 mark, so nearing on 2000. And if we have a look at a convective sounding as well, which is a snapshot of the atmosphere around the southeast corners of Queensland, again that very distinct dry slot, great surface heating as well expected across southeast Queensland tomorrow morning into tomorrow afternoon, and again with that great dry slot and some great mid-level shear as well, and shear into the upper levels. It's another really good setup for organised severe thunderstorm activity or even supercellular activity as well. A great setup as well towards the west of Brisbane. Brisbane itself looking a little bit worse for wear. I mean, we've still got a pretty good setup there, but it looks like the thunderstorms do pass a little bit further towards the west compared to where Brisbane is. So my honest opinion right now is whilst Brisbane will definitely see some thunderstorm and some lightning activity tomorrow afternoon and into tomorrow evening, the strong severe thunderstorms, which mind you will be isolated in nature and also again quite small, similar to the ones that we saw last weekend on Sunday Developer and Kilcoy and Kingaroy and towards the Glasshouse Mountains and the Sunshine Coast. They're likely to pass towards the west of Brisbane, sparing Brisbane from a direct hit from these strong severe thunderstorms, which could be dangerous at times, but definitely giving them a good light show and maybe a couple of drops of rainfall as well. So if you're wondering why the storms miss out on Brisbane, particularly the suburbs towards the east and the north of Brisbane, especially towards the northeast of Brisbane, so around the airport and even up towards Bravey Island and Redcliffe, Caboolture rather should be exempt from this. They're likely to see thunderstorm activity. It is because these storms passed a little bit further towards the west of the Brisbane city area. I hope that does make sense. And pushing things forward, finally, it looks like we get a little bit of a rest period. Sunday is a day of quite a severe thunderstorm activity. In fact, very little severe thunderstorm activity is even possible across Queensland or New South Wales. It looks like the storms do pipe up again around the 23rd of October rather, across parts of New South Wales, and maybe some more thunderstorm activity towards the end of October as well, after about the 27th or the 28th, a multi-day severe thunderstorm outbreak does become possible once again. But apart from that, it looks like conditions do become a little bit quieter and a little bit more tame across southeast Queensland and northeast New South Wales, which is good because after this outbreak here, I imagine we're going to want a couple of days of just breathing space through New South Wales and Queensland in the wake of these thunderstorms. They're going to be strong tonight, so make sure you are prepared. Get home if you can early today, around midday, preferably, and the same deal tomorrow through southeast Queensland. These thunderstorms, if they do develop and if they do go for your location, they are going to be dangerous. They're going to be strong. They they are going to be severe and they will pack a punch, so make sure you do get home early, get the car under the carport, stay inside and avoid all non-essential travel when you are under a severe thunderstorm warning. Make sure you do have the SES numbers saved as well as emergency contacts, and make sure everybody is in the know, your neighbours, family, friends, everybody is in the know in regards to the severe thunderstorm outbreak that's coming through tonight for New South Wales and tomorrow for Queensland. These thunderstorms mean business, and I know that I'm beginning to sound like the boy who cried wolf here, considering a lot of other weather forecasters have been calling for wild thunderstorms into the Brisbane area. Not necessarily me, I like to consider myself exempt from that. These forecasts here from the models that I'm using have been extremely accurate so far storm season, but I feel like I get lumped in with a lot of those other worse forecasters at times, and I don't want to be, so take these warnings seriously. And if you do see my name attached to any forecast, normally it's made with a very reliable forecast model, and I've got some great confidence in it, otherwise I wouldn't be posting it. Do consider leaving a like on the video as well, and subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. And of course, a special shout out to the channel sponsors. Their names are on screen right now. I could not run the show without them. The support is massively appreciated as usual, and that is all going to be from me that is all from me this morning. Another update later this afternoon as they develop through New South Wales, and again twice daily updates tomorrow for Queensland, and I'll catch you all in the next storm. Goodbye.